Hey, everybody. This episode of Our Kids Play Hockey is brought to you by our title sponsor, NHL Sense Arena. Look, we all want our kids to succeed in hockey, but let's face it, finding training that's both effective and enjoyable can be a real challenge, and not to mention expensive and a total drain on time, especially if you have to drive to the rink, pay a private instructor. There's so many reasons that money gets spent on this game. But that's where NHL Sense Arena steps in. It's a virtual reality training game that brings the rink into your home that takes off-ice training to a new reality. It's designed to improve hockey sense and IQ, something that's lacking majorly in the game today for both players and goalies. And you get unlimited access to over 100 drills and training plans from top coaches and players that can be played anytime, anywhere, with drills approved by USA Hockey player and goalie development directors. Look, improving mental hockey skills at home has really never been more fun, and any hockey player that uses this is going to have a blast. All right. I've used this before on my own, and it feels like you're so immersed in an arena, you sometimes forget you have a headset on. And again, it's not being on the ice, but it allows you to work on some of these skill sets like scanning, as I said before, hockey IQ, looking around the rink, making the right plays, that getting those repetitions in now as a hockey player are super important for your development. So NHL Sense Arena is giving all the listeners an exclusive offer for $50 off an annual plan when you use our code Hockey Never Stops at checkout. Again, that's Hockey Never Stops. All you got to do is go to hockey.sensearena.com. Again, that's hockey.sensearena.com. Use the code Hockey Never Stops, and you'll save $50 on your annual plan of NHL Sense Arena. Make sure to check that out and enjoy this episode of Our Kids Play Hockey. Hello, hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. This is a great one today. We had a submission, an audio submission that we're going to play for you right at the beginning of the episode from our friend Meg, who asked a great question about when is the right time to establish a routine with your kids. So this is a listener-based episode. We want to let all of you know you can submit topics like this to written, or we prefer audio like this, by emailing us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com, or head over to our Facebook page, Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll be sure to look at them there as well. So if you want to submit an audio question, which is great for the episodes because everybody can listen to it, do that. Again, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com or the Facebook group, Our Kids Play Hockey. Also, we're getting to that time of the year. Gifts are getting important, and we know you need to save money and protect those hockey sticks that you're buying for your kids. So head over to hockeywraparound.com and use our code OKPH to get a discount on your purchase. They sell the #1 blade protector in the world, so your kids can use their ice hockey sticks outside. It goes on easy. You tape it on, and they can play outside with their game stick, therefore not destroying them, which they do. That's why it was created. And you can also get their dry stick equipment dryer. We're going to talk a lot in this episode about equipment and how to make a routine. The dry stick attaches right to their hockey stick, so you can get an organized set of equipment. I know that we've had 6- and 5-year-olds do this, so it's something they can use. That's the dry stick equipment dryer. It's portable. It can go with you on the road or at your house. Saves you a lot of room, a lot of time, and helps you keep it organized. But all of that, again, on hockeywraparound.com. Use code OKPH at checkout. Really helps us out a lot. Helps us support the show. But without further ado, let's get you into the show of Our Kids Play Hockey.
Hey, Lee. I was curious if you all could talk about hockey routines for practice and games, and how at a young age, at the mite and squirt level, sometimes, if not all of the times, the responsibility of preparation falls on the parents. And when is it an appropriate age to start giving some of that responsibility to the kid? Things like, do you have all of the jerseys that are needed? And do you know what color you're supposed to be wearing? Do you have everything in your bag? And is it clean? Do you have everything you need for practice? What time do you have to be at practice? Do you have your water bottles? Small things like that are topics that parents are usually running through their brain on a pretty regular basis to make sure their child is prepared. But when do we give that over to the kid to say, okay, you're going to start taking responsibility for some of these things? It is very clear that hockey players at an older age have an incredible work ethic and respect for the people that they are working with. I see it in the way that they operate in the professional world, in their communities, and I'd love to know at what age that starts. When do you start taking the responsibility off yourself as a parent and start to give it to your player?
So that's a great question, and something I think we'd love to talk about, because it happens at every different level of our game, right? When the first day we get to the rink, to the last day, our kids carry their bags in and leave the game of hockey.
I'm going to start with this. First off, Meg, great question. Mike, I've gone through 7 water bottles this year. Somehow we lost a jersey that we played in that game. I'm hoping that's going to turn up in someone's bag. The daily grind of getting them to take their gear out of the bag to dry off or get it in the bag to get ready to go. The fight that happens every time I say it's time to go. Not every time, but a lot of times it's the time to go, and just having them have to transition out. Mike, I think I'm reaching the breaking point with it. When I started doing this journey, what I did was I walked them through it, like I showed them how to take it out. I really kind of pushed them almost to take it out. Then it kind of got to a point where it was more trouble than it was worth for me, keeping in mind they're younger at this age. So I started doing it myself a little bit just because I didn't want to have the argument. We all get there as parents sometimes. But now I've reached the breaking point where I've kind of had enough. And I've gotten mentally to the point of, and this is a funny one, Mike, because I think you told me this was going to happen, of, hey, if you forget something, you forgot something. And I'm not changing it. And I'm going to remind everybody listening, one of my players is a goalie. So if he forgets something, the whole team gets let down. And again, with my daughter, I think she's learning from him a bit, but their ability to lose stuff is a frustration that I know a lot of you listening have. And I am going to share some of the things I've done that have worked. But can we just take a moment for all the hockey parents out there and all the water bottles and socks and jerseys and elbow pads and left gloves that have been lost to the game of hockey over the years, Mike?
Yeah, so this is so I shouldn't say that. I fall from the category of, you've got to be responsible for your equipment, and you need to make sure that your bag is packed and unpacked and all the different things you need. And, as your kids get older too, it gets even more complex, right? It gets to be like, okay, what pregame meal are you bringing? What postgame meal you do need to have? What kind of protein shake do you want to have? What kind of snacks do you want to have? Because we're not stopping at Taco Bell or Chipotle after practice at 11:30 at night. So it all becomes very, the only thing I could say is, like, routines are really so important in this aspect. And I think what the question really came about is, when should we start enforcing those routines? Now, that being said, I just recently went to a tournament and had to humbly text my wife that there might be something at the house that she might have to bring up with her, because I forgot of my overnight bag, yelling at my son to remember his overnight bag, right? So, and then I'll get the, well, how old are you text, right? So, if you're old enough to play, I used to say this about the kids, if you're old enough to play, you're old enough to be responsible for some of the things you play with. Like, if you forget your stick in the rink, or you forget your water bottle on the bench.
That's happened.
I mean, think about a stick. You leave a stick in the rink, it's a $200 investment, $250 for most people.
Right.
That's a lot of money. Water bottles are $8 a piece. I mean, it's not cheap. It's not like it's a free paper cup.
Yeah.
So it all depends on, I think, to me, certainly age is, we could talk about this in the segments of age and what responsibilities players should have. But ultimately, a lot of it is about routine. It's about just like our regular routine, right? Getting ready for school in the morning, getting ready for hockey and leaving the hockey rink. I can't tell you, as a coach, like, so one of the things I do as a coach, good or bad or enabling or not, I am the last person that leaves the rink, and I go in the locker room. Most of the time I'm cleaning it up, picking up the tape and whatever. My new favorite is the cut ends of the tape stick from now the kids, taping the toe of the blade, and now they cut the ends off and the ends just lay there on the ground. So that's my new, those are hard to pick up. So we throw those get thrown away. Locker room is spotless when we leave. And there's no doubt in my mind, I leave, on the group text, like, whose sneakers are these? Whose t-shirt is this? Right. Whose stick is this?
We get those too.
We left a mouth guard. These are 16-year-old men. So, I think it all depends on, and a lot of me says, well, if you allow it to continue to happen and you enable this, then of course it's going to keep happening. Right. But I don't know, with a 7-year-old, I don't know. I think there needs to be a lot. I think there needs to be a lot of teaching and hand holding, and there's a lot of I don't know what you call it, like the functioning of their brain that isn't developed to do some of that stuff.
Like you said, let's kind of break this down because I think I have my answer to this. I mean, and Meg alluded to it. And once you get to kind of the Bantam, midget, and up ages, it's on them. They should absolutely want to do it, right? Because there is a point, there's like a breaking point where you're so involved in the game that it becomes personal how your routine is. And again, we should also say this, Mike. Look, there is a big difference between, hey, I forgot something, which happens once in a while, and every week I'm forgetting the same thing. All right. So like, I can forgive, hey, Dad, I left my glove. My kid's 18. I left my glove at home. I never do that. It was a freak thing. That can happen. All right. Happens to all of us, as you just said. Now, again, if there's no responsibility or accountability on the kid and they keep forgetting to put something on or bring something in, which is what I'm dealing with right now, that's where the, let's just say that the teapot starts to boil. All right. So this is what I've found. And then Mike, I kind of want you to continue this because again, I'm only hitting the squirt age here. But my attitude I found is this: when the kids are atoms or mites, it's on me to teach them this is what you need to bring. All right. Because they don't really know for a little bit, right? Eventually they do. But it's like, okay, do you have your skates? Do you have your shin guards? Do you have you have to kind of walk through that checklist with them. I said in a previous episode, something that really worked for us was I had my son and daughter actually create their own checklists. So they had the accountability of that. And that really, really helped. Right. I didn't tell them after a while. It's like, okay, what do you need to bring to the game? Now, again, when my daughter was 6 or just turned 7, she didn't know that the first 20 times she was on the ice. She was brand new, but now she does. So when she had the accountability, I had her make a list, and now they check that list when they pack their bags. Keeping in mind, too, like sometimes the schedule doesn't allow for them to pack their bags. And we might get home late one night. They have it the next day. They got to get to school. So I don't mind packing their bag in that scenario. It helps my wife out. It helps with the travel. So I think Atoms and Might is an educational time, but I think it's very important to the listeners, in my opinion, Mike, before we go on to squirt, that you at least explain to the kids, they need to know what's supposed to be in the bag, maybe what's not supposed to be in the bag, what needs to come out of the bag, and then the routine of you need to air your equipment out, okay? And then you need to put it back, right? I think that's a good stepping stone, but I don't think at the Might level, after having gone through it now, it's a fully accountable time period for the kids yet. That's just my opinion, but it better be darn close.
Yeah, well, it's the head, shoulders, knees, and toes game, right? I think if you can do that with your 5-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And I did this with my kids, and I've actually, I know I sound a little crazy here, but I used to do this with our 8U kids, and this was like a seminar for the parents and the kids together up in the lobby. Like, okay, this is our game. We're gonna get dressed and undressed. And as you get undressed, you're going to be thinking about being dressed, right? So if you have a routine, listen, if your routine is you come home and you dump your bag in the garage and then you go to bed, most likely, like here's my issue with that, is that when you go home and you have an organized area and you put your stuff in that organized area, you immediately know you've left your elbow pad at the rink.
Right.
And then you text the group chat, hey, who has my son's elbow pad? He was sitting next to Johnny. And then Johnny says, I have 3 elbow pads, and then, the mom says, oh, well, you have my retainer, or you've got my son's jersey. Like, that's where this technology is great, right?
It really is. Yeah.
But if you wait until you go to your next game to determine that you left your glove at the rink, it's gone.
You're in trouble.
Now, again, even at the learn to play level, we tell, every learn to play kid gets the same email from me anytime they sign up. And it's that label. Everything has your name on your equipment. Everything.
Wait, everybody hears that listening, right? Like, because I didn't mention that. You're right. Label everything.
Again, and I think it's just like inside the helmet. Put just little, label
tags
makers
and stuff too.
Mabel's labels, or I don't know who they're great, but whoever you go to, get labels out there and label everything so it's easier for us as coaches and rink personnel. Listen, I could tell you this: if a rink personnel finds a glove and it says Dylan on it, and their last name, they're going to get that glove back. If it's just sitting there, it's going in the lost and found.
Yeah, or the trash. I've seen that.
Have you been into a rink?
Yeah.
The lost and found. I don't know what that is sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think this is so
it's a cesspool of disease, Mike. That's what it is.
The very beginner level. If you enable the ability, if you put your own Apple Air tag, in with your tag, you put some way in there to get that equipment back for somebody, you're going to get it back. People just don't throw things out with people's names on
Right.
it. If you just leave a glove, the right glove, and it's gone, now you're buying. And again, at this age, these are brand new pieces of equipment. This isn't like if I lose my right glove, it's from 1978, right? I mean, it's like oh, thank God he lost that glove. Now he can get a new glove. But for these kids, these are brand new pieces of equipment.
Yeah, all the time.
And there's no reason to lose anything. Now, again, like you said, if you forget something, like what I try to do with my kids is I try to get them in a place where, when you take your stuff off, now what you don't have.
Right. That's a good point.
And then you're packing it, and you pack it as you get dressed. So
well, let's go into the actionable items of what you're talking about now, because you're making really great points. So like things for the parents listening, because again, I just assume things sometimes. I don't realize like that's just really good advice. So the first thing you said, Mike, is that mentally your kids should know how to get dressed, and that's how you should pack your bag, right? So like this is how my kids did. Okay, I need my undergarments first, my Jack, my Jill, my duster armor, whatever I'm using. Okay. Then it's okay. What do you get next? Okay. My shin guards though next. And then my socks and my pants.
And you're making a song. You're just like kids used to learn how to do all the states.
Yeah.
Right.
Pack your bag like you get dressed. Right. And you're right. You can make a song. There's a lot of different things you can do.
But just imagine yourself getting dressed. Okay. What do you do? I'll put my shin guards on. Right. Then I put my socks on. Then I put my breezers on.
Well, and the other thing was in unpacking. You're right. I forget. People do just open the bag or dump it. Right. There should be in my opinion, a place for everything. Right. Your skates go here. Your shins go here. Your pants go here. Double check when you open your bag. Your jerseys get hung up. Don't leave them in the bag. It's disgusting. All right. And it's just like so like you said, right away. Hey, I'm missing something. All right. That's part of accountability too. And like we're in a good place here with our coaching staffs with my kids. Mike, they do wait until everybody's out and check the locker room. I do that too. Just so you know, like, okay, you can tell the parents there was nothing in the locker room. Right. So somebody has it. Right. And the parents are pretty aware of that. But like, I think that's the first actionable item is make sure your kids know how to get dressed mentally, make sure they pack their bag that way, and then make sure everything has a place. Now, again, this one's kind of optional, what I'm about to say. When I pack my own bag, my skates have a very specific spot, my elbows, my shoulder, everything has a spot in the bag. And it's not one of those organized bags. That's how I know where things go because it's part of my routine. Now, again, when you're 7, things just get thrown in the bag, and I get that. But it's a process, right? And I think that in the kind of 8U mind, it's starting to develop the process and asking those questions. Okay, did you check everything when you can? Okay, because it's incredible.
And it's hard. It's hardly right. Yeah. If you play lacrosse, like everybody that listens to this that plays lacrosse knows you take your lacrosse stick, you throw your helmet on it, the gloves go on the stick, and the shoulder pads go over that, and the jersey goes over that. You go home. Right. Like so, everything is on a stick. Right, like it's like you literally walk out, and if you're a baseball player, your batting helmet goes on the glove, your batting gloves are in their helmet, and your mitt goes over the bat. It's like so it's easy. But in hockey, it's this bottomless pit of a bag.
Well, it's I'll take it a step further, Mike. It's like when I walk in the locker room and there's a yard sale going on because my kids' equipment's all over everywhere but the bag. I want to lose my mind. I'm like, it's just not hard.
I'm just like, you can't. You not only that, can you just put your gloves here, your helmet here? You go, and I think the caller was alluding to, like you like in a professional locker room or a junior locker room. I mean, there are coaches that are so crazy, like behind you, like it's like the helmet, the gloves, the shin guards, the elbow pads. Like if I go into your stall, it looks like that guy's stall and that guy's stall. You know who loves that?
Military
trainers. Because equipment
trainers do that.
Yeah, because they're like, okay, I know by looking at the snapshot of this person's locker, they have everything they need.
Right.
And I think at the youngest levels, we can, for our own sanity as parents, we can help our kids understand that if you're going into a locker room and dumping your bag out to get dressed, that to me is so anxiety provoking that I'm like,
I'm the same way.
You can't reach into your bag and just get what you need.
Well, let's take it a step further now. Okay, so would you agree with me that Adams and Mites, it's really more about now educating and getting them in a position to do this, right? Like I've learned that it's very hard for them to do this on their own. Some kids do, some kids don't.
No, they get dressed on their own. Like I've seen kids in summer hockey school at 7 years old get dropped off.
Well, my daughter she gets dressed on her own. I mean, she needs help with her skates, but she can get dressed on her own. Again, it depends on the kid. But the point I'm making is this, just to answer Meg's question, right? Is that I think Adams and Mites, you should not be fully ready yet for them to have that accountability. You need to be teaching them how to be accountable. Again, I'm not saying do everything for them. I'm saying you need to be educating them on how to do this.
Yeah.
Now, this leads me to the next thing. Now, and this is going to be my answer. I believe squirt, 10U, that is the time they need to start taking their own responsibility. And I'm going to be very honest with everybody out there. You remember when your kids were getting out of diapers and you had to go through that week of hell, or just have them walk around naked for a week, and it was just a pain in the butt, and then they just suddenly get it? It's the whole first year of squirt that you're going to go through with a similar process, but you just got to do it. All right. So let me tell you what I've been doing here that's working. All right. Because I said, I always like to give the audience at least things I'm doing that are working. I think you'll have some too. First off, the coaching staff has been great about no parents in the locker room. Kids, you're responsible for getting dressed on your own. So that already added an aura of, okay, wow, this is getting a little serious to the kids now, right? Like my mom and dad can't come in, so it's on me, right? If I miss something, the coach is yelling at me. Now that's not my parents or anything like that. So I noticed early on my son was starting to forget some things. So this is what I did, Mike, and I'm telling you, it's working. One of the problems with helping too much is that the kid starts to take for granted what you're doing. And they don't see the value in what a lost glove costs. So, 10U, kids have some money most likely, right? Or they understand what money is, right? They understand. My kid loses a water bottle, they get charged for that water bottle now. And I'll tell you what, when I started doing that, water bottles are not getting lost anymore. My kid forgot his socks, that's $50. What? $50? Yeah, it's $50. Give it to me, or whatever you want to charge them. Things are not getting lost in the bag as much anymore, Mike. Now, with that said, somehow we lost a home jersey. Now, it's not lost. It's obviously in someone else's bag because it wasn't in the locker room after the game. But we're starting to institute, no, you will pay for this now. You are responsible for your gear and to make sure it's in the bag. And if you continue to be lackadaisical about this, mom and dad are going to be made whole on all the money that we've been spending. So I have found that to work. I also have found explaining, because again, this is also the big mistake. You got to explain the why, right? And as a goaltender, I found that's a unique position to be in as a parent, because if he forgets something, it could be really catastrophic for the whole team. All right. Like, a player forgets a glove. That's something you can find something, right? If he forgets something, he needs to play goalie and he can't get in net, you have a major problem. So I've been able to explain to him, and as you should do with all the players' parents, that, look, there's a responsibility here that you can't let your team down. All right. And that's why it's important that you take the time to make sure you have all your pads, son. Right. And again, you can do this with any position. Being a goalie, I just think there's a little more emphasis on it. It makes it easier for me, is what I'm trying to say. But my answer, Meg, to your question is squirt, they got to take over, but it's hard. All right. And they're going to forget stuff, and there's going to be, maybe some crying or whining or yelling, but it's like the diaper thing. Like, you just got to do it. They'll figure it out, because on the other end of this, Mike, and I do know this from playing, when they do get it, then they really take over. And then, like, they actually don't want you to be involved. Right. So yeah, I think squirt is the age. That's my answer. Squirt is when your kids need to start taking the responsibility.
Yeah. And be strategic about it. Like, you can proactively teach those lessons, right? So if you know your kid, you leave, right? And you see the glove in the corner of the garage. Yeah. You're like, okay, today's the day.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach the lesson.
Yeah,
not when you get on a plane,
man.
Not when you're getting on the plane, right? Because you're probably like, that's probably not the best day for me to teach this lesson. Staying at the Hilton for the weekend with my kid who can't play because they don't have equipment. Like, so it's like, but be proactive in teaching that. It's almost like, it's the same thing when your kids are learning how to ride a bike, and they're going to fall, but you know what? They're kind of in an area where when they fall, they're really not going to get hurt. They're going to fall. They're going to cry a little bit. They're going to get scraped up, but they're not going to break their neck. I mean, it's like, okay, they're like, I'm not putting them in a like, okay, well, I'm going to teach them how to ride a bike today in traffic. I think this is going to be the time. but I think this is
go on I-95 and figure it out. Let's go.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. You got to toughen up, kid. I mean, but I think in this scenario, like, just a little thing of equipment, like the little pain of saying, well, you've caused yourself pain, you've caused your teammates pain, right, you've caused your coaching staff pain, and it was only because you just didn't have that checklist. Now, I understand that executive functioning sometimes is very, hard for children and adults, for anybody, and so having that checklist, like, I know, like me, yeah. I and my kids hate it. There's no doubt about it. But I get in the car. I'm like, okay, my 10-year-old, I'm going over the checklist. You got this, yes. Yeah. You got this, yes. You got this. Yes, you got this. Yes, okay, but I know you don't have that because I see it
saw
right
it.
there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So to me,
Yeah.
it's just like sitting there going, okay, now if you can capture them, then that's like the warning for me. Warning 1, warning 2, and I
Yeah.
like the idea of,
I like that you're
taking your
saying that
money.
because there should be a few warnings. I don't think you got to be so
Well,
super
just
hard.
or
Yeah.
teaching moments, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Or
time to
ask
say,
great
hey, listen,
questions. Yeah. Ask
today's
great
going to be the
questions.
day. We have plenty of time.
Yeah.
Let's go through the routine again.
Yeah.
Let's go through the routine again. Well, let's go through the routine again. And I
Yeah.
think it's just, and again, if you're doing that at 17, then maybe the routine's not
You've got
working.
other problems if it's 17. Yeah.
Right. But again, there's a lot of, to your point, there's so much stuff going on sometimes. I know, even with my older son, there'll be plenty of times we get home from practice at like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, listen, I'll take care of the bag. Just
That's
go
what
up,
I
take a
do.
shower, go to
Yeah.
bed.
Yeah.
And this is a young man, right? But if you think about it, at a pro level, those guys aren't unpacking their bag. They're in bed.
Look, I don't mind helping my kids.
Right.
Like I don't mind that. I don't need to be strict on
I
it
don't
if
think
it's
that's
late.
enabling anybody. I think that's
No, if
helping.
you're helping, but here's the thing: I make sure that they know I'm doing. Like I've said, and to give my kids credit, I'll say, "Hey, listen, it's late. I'm going to unpack your bag," and I am expecting a, "Hey, thanks, Dad." All right,
Yeah.
not because I need it. It's because that's the right thing to do when someone helps you. The other thing too is we're going to reiterate this point: checklist. Create a checklist. The other fun part about this routine, Mike, is that it really gives you perspective into your own parents when we were kids. And it's one of those moments where you're like, yeah, you were right about that. Sorry. But you got to teach them. Right. And the other thing too, is like you said, I think it's also about asking questions. So make sure, parents, your kids have a checklist, create that with them, let them tell you the checklist, help them do it, give them that accountability. 2, Mike said a great example. You see it in the corner, the glove's not in the bag. All right. Ask the great question. Hey, did you double check your equipment? Are you sure? Like I said, there's a time and a place to teach them this, right? I'm going to say this. I escalated mine to if you're missing something or you lose something, you're paying for it. I have no problem putting that kind of accountability on my kids. I have no problem with my kids understanding that things are earned and that mom and dad earn money and pay for this for you because it's a privilege to play, but you need to earn these things too. I have no problem with that. But my answer is, Meg, squirt. Squirt is when it needs to be on the kids or that transition needs to be made final. By the time my kid moves on to Pee-wee, I do not want to be in a position where I'm having to tell them that. Now, listen, Mike and I have been talking about equipment a lot. Meg also brought up some other things that we need to talk about here, including things like, is your equipment clean? All right, parents, everyone, listen to me. Your 7 and 8-year-old and up, they can do laundry. You might not think they can do it, but I can guarantee you your kids can take dirty clothes, put them in the washing machine. You might not want to let them use the soap. That's fine, but they can get it in there. You can start it, and get this too, parents. You can get them to get it out of the washing machine and put it in the dryer. All right. I'm trying to help you because I think I waited too long for that. I know they can do it. So part of your routine could be take your dirty Under Armour up to the washing machine. All right. Or just do your laundry generally. So I just want to put that out there that I'm enabling all of you if you're not already doing it. Your kids can do laundry. Believe me. Okay. Right. Then the other one, sorry, Mike, anything on that one real quick before I move on? Because there's a couple more she said that I want to tap on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be hard for me. I mean, that is hard. I mean, I'm just going through the routine of the day.
Mike, they
right?
can do the laundry.
The practice. The problem is if you have, I don't even do my own laundry, but I should. But if I don't, delete that out, Caitlin.
I'm not deleting it. Mrs. Benelli, God bless you.
So, well, it's because I don't do it correctly. But but I'm thinking like if you're going to me, I'm just like, okay, everything goes in.
Maybe we will cut that out. No,
it's fine. So if you're thinking like if that's the case, and think about our kids practicing, right? They practice like every day. I mean, so if that's the case, then you better, just make sure you have maybe 2 sets of like, I listen, my family thinks I'm crazy. I'm like, okay, you got set A, set B. Set A is in the wash, set B is in your bag. Sure. Set B is in the wash, set A is in your bag. Like that,
it's a fail-safe.
To a lot of people are like, are you insane? Like this is I'm like, no, I'm just trying to be efficient here.
I'm efficient.
I'm just trying to understand that, again, I don't want the stress of hoping something's dry 4 minutes before practice, because the night before is when I need you to pack it, because after school is crazy. I'm picking you up. I got to grab your bag. I got to run into the car. Like we're not in an institution where you just show up and everything's folded and dry on your locker room, stall.
You got to earn that level of equipment training too.
Right. So, but I agree with you. I mean, again, depending on your situation at home and where you are with your kids and how many different kids you have, and you could probably the kids could learn and do their own laundry, no doubt about it. I mean, in
Yeah,
our place, it's like the laundry room is it could be a little crazy, but I think it's like a
sure.
matter of if you can if you can just get into a routine where the kids know, okay, my equipment got hung up, mom, here's my they sell these great laundry bags where you could throw everything in the bag for your kid, and then that gets washed and
Yeah,
dried, and then it stays in the bag, so it
right.
never leaves the bag, right? So there's to me, that's our solution. I'm like,
That's
here,
brilliant.
just put the laundry bag in there, it gets washed, it gets clean, it goes back. Your neck guard jerseys and shirts in there, your pants are in there, your socks are in there, everything's your cup and supporter, everything's in that bag. It gets washed and dried, and then you open it up and you have the bag. So that is one of the solutions maybe to this. But
That's a
I
great
agree.
action
There's
item.
no reason why that piece can at least make it
Look, yeah,
to the laundry room.
at minimum, like you said, it should be wherever you do your laundry, right? And parents, just word of the wise here, do not go weeks or months at a time without washing their Under Armour or their Duster Armour or their undergarments. Okay, it's disgusting for lack of a better word, but like there's a lot of things that crawl out on that armor. Wash the Under Armour, whatever you do, undergarments. Thank you. PSA from me. So yeah, I wanted to enable you all with that. The other thing Meg brought up is, and I'm going to put all these together, practice routine versus game routine, and then the time of practice. I think a mistake I made early on that I've remedied is I would just kind of know when the practices are and go, okay, it's time to go. Man, that was a mistake, right? Because kids have a hard time transitioning. Now I'm like, listen, your practice is at 5:15. My other kid, your practice is at 6:30. We need to leave at this time. What time is it now? It's this time, Dad. Good. What time do we need to leave? Okay. Everything needs to be ready to go. I'm very, very on top of that now. And so are they. And Mike, I'm going to show this too in another episode, but we have a big calendar, handwritten calendar now at the house where all of the practices and all the times, because we have so many different things that we're doing with teams right now, we're there and they look at it. I give them credit. They look at it to see what's going on. It's color coded, right? It's very organized and they know when and what they have going on. Keeping in mind too, my son's a squirt, my daughter's a mite, but my daughter's obviously benefiting from my son being older now and she follows along. But that's a big thing. They know when the time of their practices are, and they're starting to understand, is this a close one or a far one? Like, is this 5 minutes from the house or 20 minutes or an hour? Right. And again, it's a squirt thing, but education, right? I can't expect my son to understand driving yet. He's 9 going on 10. But I can't expect them to understand it takes time to go places. You need to be ready to go. And it's working. A calendar is one of the best, I think, things we've ever done. It has eliminated so much stress. And the other thing too is I'm a digital guy, Mike. So I do a lot on my phone. And again, it's my own mistake or ignorance. It's like the kids can't see that. They don't see the phone, right? So I put it up on the wall.
You want them off your phone, but then you tell me you need your phone all the time to know what the schedule is.
Right. Listen, you literally walk in my house and it's there. Like every guest that walks in is like, wow, what's that? I'm like, that's the hockey calendar.
Right.
Kids are proud of it.
No, and if you've ever played pro hockey or college hockey or junior hockey, and you've been in the locker rooms that have a countdown timer for the from the ice getting done, like usually, so when you get off the ice and you go into a locker room at certain levels of hockey, they put the time up on the clock, and the clock that's out in the rink is the clock that's in your locker room. So you start seeing the countdown. So Zamboni's on the ice. There's protocol. There's so that's I'm trying to get one of those put over our door.
Every rink I wish would have one of those, honestly.
Yeah.
Or
I think every house. I think I need one in the house. Like, so when you walk in my front door, I want that countdown clock to be like, okay, clock's starting. And now you have 63 minutes. 63 minutes. We have to be cutting in the car.
You can put it on an iPad or something.
Right, you know what? I do the same thing. I'm like, okay, it's the practice at this time.
Yeah.
You're at this time. You have homework and this, and you have to eat. You fit all this in, and here's the time frame we have to do it. So figure out where you want to do first. You want to pack your bag now and get it over with?
Right.
Do you want to eat your meal now?
Yeah, you budget your time. That's what you're teaching them, how to budget time. Another one I did, Mike, that surprisingly worked really well. So we have like an Alexa at home. All right. The voice, the thing you can talk to and it talks back, and everybody's got it. If you have Siri on your phone, okay, Google, we all have something like that right now. And I just kind of I tried this and it really worked, but I set automatic alarms. Like for school, like 10 minutes before school now, it says, Lee, 10 minutes until you need to leave to school. And the kids know what that means. Right. Yeah. So I found that let's use technology. You can tell it, hey, listen, at 5:10, say this, right? We have 10
That's
minutes that we need
interesting.
to leave for our game. And man, they, for whatever reason, Alexa's voice carries farther than mine in my household, because it's somebody else's voice. But that became part of our routine too. So you can utilize the technology, but it is important to establish from a young age. And again, as they get older, they might rush you out of the house when you get older. I've seen that too. Mom, we got to go. The game's in 4 hours. We got to go. But at a young age, establishing, hey, it takes time to get places. B, it will take you time to get dressed. I don't want to be there 20 minutes before the game. Again, at Squirt, we have to be there an hour before. So now it's like, what time do we need to leave to be there an hour before? You should be asking me that, right? Just creating the right questions. All right. So again, continuing down the answer here.
Well, I like to have a conversation about being an hour before a Squirt game, but that's maybe another episode.
No, maybe it is because it works for us. It works for us because they do.
No, I'm just saying, just from the point of view from this conversation, right, that we're having, like, when is it the responsibility of the players, right? And I think one of the pieces of the question was, who's responsible for the kids, like, warming up and what's that routine look like, right? That's part of every hockey team's routine. And I think a lot of us, like, as a coach, you say, okay, kids, you're on, you have to be there an hour before, go do your routine. And then you look at some of these routines and you're like, what the hell is that? Like, what are they even doing here?
I'm proud to say that the team that Logan's on right now is really great. They get there an hour before, they have 15 minutes to do what they need to do. And then it is a coach led team warm up, right? Then you're in the locker room, maybe chalk talk, you're getting dressed, game time. So it's very regimen. And I really appreciate that because the coaches have taken it upon themselves to help. And I'll tell you what, when it's not mom or dad doing it, the kids take it way more seriously, which is normal and natural. And I'm very thankful for that. And again, when you rewind back in the mite level, it is my responsibility as a coach to make sure these kids understand this is not Adams. You will listen when a coach speaks to you. You will get instruction. You will learn. Right. And that can be a really hard transition for some of these kids who it's just I've been skating around having fun. And it is always supposed to be fun, but there are some rules now. Right. And that is okay for you to know that and learn that. So keeping on this one. Okay. The other question she asked was about practice routine to game routine. My suggestion is it should not change at all. Your routine for practice or game should always be the same. There might be a little heightened awareness on a game day about not forgetting something for sure, but your routine should not be any different on a practice day than a game day in terms of just preparation. Now, it might change in terms of I've got 2 games today, 2 different teams, 2 different practices. Again, one I have to deal with is if Logan is going from goalie to skater, which happens a few times a week, he's got to make sure certain gear from one bag gets to the other bag. Right. He's actually been pretty good about that because it's not a ton, but like, he wears certain pads on both sides. Right. So little things like that, but the routine doesn't change. It's just making sure that they know, here's what we're doing today. We kind of have a little mini meeting in the morning, even on school days of, hey, tonight, Alina, you have this, Logan, you have this, or you both have this after this, just so they know. And you know what? They're Mike, they're really receptive. They understand, like, they're not dumb, right? They understand what they need to do and what needs to go on. And how we're going to compartmentalize that. But from a practice routine to a game day routine, in terms of equipment, that should not change. Some players have food routines or things they have to eat on game days. That's a personal preference. And again, that happens when you get older. Again, parents of younger kids, make sure this is really on us as parents, in my opinion. You really got to prepare your meals right on a game day or a practice day. Make sure that they have snacks. Healthy snacks. I can't stand it when a kid walks in with a donut. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. Like, carrots are a great one. I mean, there's a lot of healthy snacks you can get that aren't hard, but making sure that, they're not eating 10 seconds before they go on the ice. Cause then I got to bring a puke bucket out, right? Because your kid didn't digest his food properly. Some of that's on us to teach them from a nutritional standpoint. But don't forget to give your kid meals at the right time on a game day. I mean, I've seen that, or kids show up hungry. And it's like, it's a problem. So that to me, that's on the parents till the kids have some understanding of that, and knowing of that. But practice routine, game routine should be the same, Mike, my opinion.
I'm baffled that coaches, parents, players do not take the same thought and care in going to their practices, which they do many more times than games, hopefully.
Right.
And have much bigger chance of getting injured. Because the reps are so many. I mean, in the game, you're getting, what are you getting? 15 shifts. In practice, you're on the ice every minute.
It's a fraction.
I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't care if you're at the lowest level. The culture is a whole nother conversation. the culture of youth hockey to show up 5 minutes before practice and jump on the ice and go practice is prevalent. If it's there, I see it at every level, even elite
It's
players.
insanity.
Like elite hockey, I get it. You show, but that to me is the most ludicrous thing you can ask. If you're paying whatever you're paying to have a professional coaching staff with serious hockey players that don't understand that if practice starts at 6, it really starts at 5, and that you need to be able to go through a mental and physical routine if you want your best practice. Just like you perform in a game, if you don't perform in practice to a place where you're developing and getting better, then how are you going to perform in the game to get better? Like that's practice is where you get the opportunity to learn all these things. And I don't know why coaches don't enforce the fact that, my practice starts at 7:30. That means when I walk in at 6:30, you should be in your warm-up gear and you should be doing a dynamic stretch. You should be doing some mental fitness stuff. You should be doing, getting to know
how
your
about this?
players.
You should be ready. You should be ready to go.
You should be getting ready. Like let
me tell you something I hate as a coach. I mean, I really despise this. All right. And I'm going to give a little caveat. If practices are at 4 and you're coming from school, I understand sometimes you get there as early as you possibly can. But I cannot stand it when a player or a parent is getting a player dressed when the coach is speaking, if that's not the case. It's just you showed up late and you didn't feel like getting dressed.
Well, but it's also the culture of allowing that to happen.
Like I can't stand it.
Like if you're gonna allow, if parent, because this happens all the time. My kid can't make it to this practice, but he'll be at the game. Don't worry about it. I don't give a crap about the game.
Yeah.
I need you here. Like this is like you want me to. Okay, then you're wondering why you're not on the power play. It's because you haven't been to practice in 3
Mike,
days.
we're talking about practice, not a game. Not the game that we die for.
Well, the bottom line is when we're talking about routines. I get it. So parents, if there's a routine for a game, it's the same thing we talked about, like the sticks, right? If the routine is, if you have a game stick, it's your practice stick. Your practice stick is your game stick. Your game stick. You don't have kids go, you know what? I don't want to ruin this helmet, so I'm going to wear this other helmet in practice, and then the game day I'm going to put on this helmet. Like it's just you prepare to play the game. Who said it? Herm Edwards. So just come in, be ready, practice game. Start mimicking those same things, getting ready, getting mentally ready, taping your stick, talking to your teammates, being in the locker room. Go on the ice, you're warmed up, you're sweat. Like I ask my kids all the time, like, how are you not getting a little sweat in before we jump on the ice? I'm not stretching you out.
You should have that gleam. I call it the sprinkler was on. Like
kids showing up to practice in flip flops and I'm like, guys,
it's annoying. We're starting to sound like old people, but it's true. All right. It's
not old people. It's the BS of saying you're on a real travel team when you're really not.
Yeah, no, look, it's true, Mike. Joking aside, here's the deal. If it's that statement, like you said, if you're failing to plan, you're planning to fail. All right. So listen, if we've done episodes in the past, we've talked in the past about that it's an all the time thing, right? If you really want to excel at something and be great at something, you got to be great all the time at all the things, at taking out the garbage, getting on time, getting dressed. And look, crap happens. Like we're not, Mike and I are not ignoring that things happen. Traffic jams. All right. But kids have bad days. It's the routine of it. Is it happening all the time? If you're not showing up prepared to practice, how can you be prepared for a game? And again, I tell my athletes this all the time at every level that, well, I don't have to do it at the highest levels, but there's just no way you're going to show up to a game and just be great all the time unless you have a gift from God. And even then you're wasting it, right? It's like the prep for the game starts so far beyond the game. And I say this too, your practices, especially at the youth level, they should be harder than the games, which will make the games easy. The games are all muscle memory and creativity and putting it into play, right? And again, there's a lot of teaching in games. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but the practice, like that's the rub, right? That's where you learn.
Yeah, but I think that's how bad the culture is, that a parent would look and say, it's practice.
Oh,
we'll just,
on.
we're not going to get there. Like it's not, it's not important. Now, if your practices, maybe your practices are that bad that it isn't important. Listen, my practices aren't bad. You miss my practice, you're literally missing a master class in hockey. And if you want to miss that, that's going to affect you. Now, if you're a player that doesn't need to practice at the early levels, at these might squirt Pee Wee levels, then, you're just either an exceptional athlete or you're playing with a bunch of crappy kids. Like the
Right.
fact is, you're just not playing at a really good level. If you're not coming to practice every day and having the routine, packing your bag, being mentally ready, having your sticks, being prepared, hydrating all week. Like if you're not hydrating on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday practice and expect to play well in a game because you're going to drink a gallon of water on Saturday morning, you're not hydrated. Like it's something that starts like being ready for next week's event starts when the event on Sunday ends.
Right.
And then whatever your rest is, whatever your daily routine is, getting your schoolwork done, doing your timing, figuring out your calendar for the week, figure out where I got to be, when I got to be there. Now, if you're saying to me and you come back and say, "Oh my God, Mike, this is way too much. I never did this as a kid." Well, then don't do it. Like this is just the reality of the world we're living in. Like if we just didn't, if you don't want to put the effort in to be a AAA player or be in a sport that demands these things, then don't be in the sport.
Right.
Just don't do it. But if you're acting like you're in a AAA team, but you don't do all these things, you're not a AAA hockey player.
No,
if you're a kid carrying your bag into the rink or wheeling your bag into the rink, and the nanny is bringing your sticks in for you, you're not a AAA hockey player. You just aren't. So just forget it. We're talking about routines here. We're talking about when can you get those routines. If you're going to be spending time and money and effort at 7 or 8, then that's the time your kid should be ready.
Absolutely.
If you're going to be doing those things. Now, if you're playing rec hockey and show up on a Saturday,
Mike, that's just a great point you made, though. Sorry, that's a great point.
Then that's you get what you get, and you don't get upset.
If you're going to be playing at a quote unquote elite level, you should have elite routines. That's just a really good point you made. All right. Somehow there is a Mite AAA level, which I don't agree with at all. But
I just saw a 2014 champion. I'm like, we're celebrating this. Now, again, I don't begrudge the people that get it and get the money. I'm like, hey, listen, somebody's going to get the money. Suck the money out of people. But if you're telling me that you're a AAA player at 9, then have a AAA routine.
Yeah, I think that's another way of looking at this, right? Is that if we're going to buy into these systems of AA, AAA, and everything, maybe something coincides with that. Now, with that said, I think that rounding this episode out, aside from the hockey culture, right, toxic or not toxic, these are all life lessons, and it behooves you to teach your kid these life lessons. All right, like this is
and helps you.
Yeah, like you're teaching them accountability, and again, there is a massive shortage of accountability right now in this country and in the world. And I think we all, as parents, play a part in making sure that the next generation is a little more accountable here. Okay. So again, use the word accountability. Son, daughter, do you know what accountability is? All right. You are accountable for your gear, your routine. If you're not accountable, you'll give me money because I'm not paying for it anymore. Right. But the life lesson of teaching them how to do this. And again, look, parents, listen, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. They're gonna disappoint you. There's no way around that. And I think that's where the question kind of comes from is like, when am I supposed to start this? You start it right away. You start it with like anything else, right? When your kid was walking, we always use this analogy, right? You don't yell at your kid when they're crawling to walk. You understand it's going to take time and you're encouraging. And you're like, come on, you can do it. Yeah, there's a lot of things like that, right? I think we can do that with this too. Hey, there's a lot of time to learn how to get dressed. Learn your equipment first. Make sure they understand the equipment. You can't expect them to know what to put in their bag if they don't know the equipment. This is atoms and mites. All right.
Right. And make it fun. And make it fun. Don't make it a job. I mean, you're supposed to love going to the rink, right? So if you're going to make it if you're going to be beaten,
I could have done a better job with that. I did not do a great job with that. I did not make it fun. I should have made it fun.
Me either. Other kids had fun because I had a lot more fun teaching the other kids that weren't my kids. But but in my kids, it's like get your goddamn bags and get in the car right now. If you forgot anything, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to lose my mind.
Everyone listening should learn from our example, Mike.
Yeah, but I think it is. Listen, because we all go. But again, it all depends. You have 5 kids. You have 2 kids. You have 1 kid. You have a goalie. Do you have a forward? Do you have a full-time player, a part-time player? Like all these kind of things come into play. But at the end of the day, for everyone's sanity. Right. Knowing that there's a place for everything, that there's a routine to put it on and off, know when it's missing, know when you have no tape left. Like, don't find out when you go to the rink you have no tape left. Say, oh, there's no tape in my Howie's hockey bag. Okay, it's Monday. I have till Wednesday to get you some tape.
Skate sharpening.
Skate sharpening. All those kind of things. Those are the kind of things that you always want to prepare for prior to going to the event you're going to.
Right. I agree with you. Well, listen. That was a great episode. I hope we answered your question, Meg. I want to let everybody else listening to this know we are all about you submitting things like this. You can always email us at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com or you can just hit us up on Facebook. You know, Mike and I are in our Facebook group all the time. There's a lot of different ways to get a voice message over, which we actually really appreciate because we can play them on the episode. It gives it a little more humanity than just us talking about it all the time. But again, you can email us too at team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. Submit your questions. We love answering them. It's a great one from Meg today. And Mike, I want to thank all the listeners here for listening to this good, lively discussion today. Hope we gave you some actionable items and kind of really put our foot down a little bit as coaches and parents of, hey, do this, don't do this, learn from us. And move forward.
As always, I think I gave myself some actual items, too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, again, we've said it before. This show is therapy for us. we learn just as much as we give out.
I got to remember the checklist again.
Yeah, have them do it. That's my advice. Have your kids do it. So that's going to do it for Our Kids Play Hockey this week. We're going to keep with you throughout the holidays and the new year and your hockey season, all the way into the playoffs and in the summer and then the next season. It's a year-round program, people. Enjoy it. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next Our Kids Play Hockey. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.